And we're live. Hi, Making Bone Gang, and welcome to episode 5 of the Pelican Bone Outdoors podcast. Today we have Frank, and we're going to be talking about alligators and alligator hunting and all the other things that go along with it that I had no idea was involved in alligator hunting. How you doing, Frank?
I'm doing great. I am excited that we were able to tag out in only 2 days because I didn't know how long that was process was gonna take, and on the first day when we caught the 2 alligators, I was like, "Oh, okay. Well, maybe,
What,
this might be easy."
what did we count the first day of putting out the hooks as a day, or are we not counting that?
No, I'm not counting that one just because that really wasn't a day. I mean, I was literally just putting them out and hoping that we tied good enough knots. And by the way, I'm just gonna let y'all say because y'all can't see this side of it. But
Technical difficulties.
yeah, we're over here watching. The way we have it set up is we have 2 screens. Well, one of the screens just locked out on us.
There we go.
There
We're
we go.
back.
We're back. So
I might end up just moving it. But anyway, so if you're watching this on live on YouTube, this right here, we're going to show you the pictures. Here's Frank and I. You've seen that on a thumbnail if you've seen when we're advertising this live. That one that Frank's holding is a 9-foot gator. That's the biggest one we caught. And then the other one is about what, 6.5, I think he was.
yeah,
Six,
it was
6'9".
6'9", so
And
almost
then
7.
and then we caught the 8-footer on the following day. I mean, he was like exactly 8 foot. And then this is me all sprawled out next to him just to give you an idea of the length of that big old boy or girl. I don't really know how to tell a difference. I didn't go lifting up any skirts or anything. But so just a little brief rundown. Alligator hunting, it's not just open to the public. Nobody can just go alligator hunting like you can, say, duck hunting or squirrel hunting or deer hunting or any public lands or anything like that. You have to either own land and specifically wetlands areas, and it depends on if it's freshwater, saltwater, or how many tags you got, depending on the population you have. And you can only hunt these alligators if you have tags. Well, on a lot of public lands around here, you can enter a lottery with Wildlife and Fisheries, and they call it a lottery. But when you win, you pay them money. That's the only thing that upset me. You know, I'm thinking a lottery, yeah, get free tags, get to go. No, how much was it?
I want to say it was $25 a tag. So right there was $75. My license was $25. Vinny's helper's license was $25. Um, and then so that's just paid to Wildlife and Fisheries. Then you turn around and you have to pay the to buy the bait, the hooks, the fuel to go out there, and it was like so. I'm looking. I think I figured it out. It was like almost $100 an alligator to go catch them. And the flip side of that coin is, if we wanted to sell them, we could have. But the issue is that we would have only gotten like $35 for a 7-foot
Right.
alligator, and the 6'9" one wouldn't have counted as a 7-foot alligator. They count it at the exact foot. So technically, the 8-foot alligator we had, they probably would have counted it as a 7-foot. The 7-foot one would have been counted as a 6, and the 9-foot one would have been counted as 9 because it was over 9. And I want to say it was like $35 for a 7-foot alligator, like 37 for a big like one that was 8 foot. And it was like, man, it ain't even worth us going out here to sell them. So we just wound up keeping everything from them.
Yeah. So we'll get to that in detail later on. But right now, let's see. We put in the lottery. That's where we were. We put in a lottery, and we actually both put in for it. We both won the tags. That'd have been 3 apiece, but because of money situation and because we were both going to be doing it together anyway, we didn't need 6 alligators, so we only did the 3. And so you go out, you get those 3 tags. You got to go to the exact WMA that you got the tags for and everything. We go out, we put hooks with a big hook, about hook was about yay big. What is that, like?
It was it was a 12-aught mustard hook.
12 mustard?
Whatever.
Mustad?
Yeah.
Yeah, there we go.
Mustad, whatever.
It's my podcast. I get to make fun of Frank. You can make fun of me on your podcast.
Oh, don't worry. On my own podcast now, I get made fun of, so it's not even there anymore.
Oh, look, there we go. I just I did the thing where my screen disappeared again. Anyway, so we went. We put this chicken out on the hook, hung it from a tree. You hang it about I don't know, we had like a foot max that we really hung it out.
Yeah, so they say an alligator can jump half of its body length out the water. So, in theory, a 9-foot alligator should be able to jump 4 foot out of the water.
In
Well,
theory.
in theory, the issue with a cold-blooded reptile at this late in the year, because I don't know what the water temperature I know in the river is like 76 degrees. So I'm assuming the water in the diversion was probably around the same. Um,
It was
that
probably a little bit warmer because of, how shallow it is, and with
yeah,
the sun shining and, well, I guess it depends. Overnight, the temperature probably changes quicker, so it's probably
yeah, and most of the time alligators are nocturnal. Nocturnal species, but we had a few days where it got up to in the 80s during the day, and so what we decided was, look, we don't care if we catch a 12-foot alligator or a 3-foot alligator. We're gonna take it home and we're gonna eat it anyway.
well, we didn't have a choice. They say the first 3 you
Yeah,
catch, the first 3 you
yeah.
got.
So how we would have done it if we wanted a bigger alligator is
Oh,
hang it higher.
right.
But we were like, look, we're gonna do like depending on the depth of the water. Where we caught the 7-foot alligator, we only had it what, maybe 6 inches off the water because there was no way for it to get up and over the or to leap out the water. And then the other one I think was like a foot and a half, 2 foot off the water. So we weren't discriminating against any alligator. Any of them that would have bit, we would have took. But I was excited that the small one was 7 foot. You know.
So we put the chicken out, and then we marked it, of course, on the GPS, so we know where we put them all because we spread them out a little bit. One of the spots I knew they had a big alligator there. That matter of fact, that's around where we caught the 9-footer. Well, the 9-footer and the 8-footer was
Yeah.
in that area. Last year I had gone. We went nutria hunting with Spence, my buddy Spence, and Lucas. And while we were nutria hunting, they had a big old alligator head sticking out the lilies, and he was pretty dormant because it was cold, man. It was cold that day, so he wasn't moving. He just had his snout out the water, breathing. He was probably just chilling. So that's why we put him right there because I knew they had that big one hanging around, and it wound up paying off. So the next morning we go out there to go check the lines. We checked 1, 2, 3.
I think on the third line we actually had the 7-foot alligator.
Yeah, the
Or
6'9".
6'9". I'm calling him 7 foot. All right.
Yeah, that's all right. I know how it is. The YouTube bass. So you pull up
Yeah.
a half pound and say it's 3 pounds. I get it.
But so we checked that one, and Vinny looked at me. He's like, "So do you want to shoot it or do you want to pull it in?" And I'm like, "Man, I think pulling it in is going to be the fun part of this whole adventure." And so I was like, "All right, we'll grab it." So I grabbed the line. He pulled. He wasn't bad. He didn't. I mean, he was thrashing, but he basically once we got him to the surface, just rolled.
I tell you what, that was a misconception I had because I've seen Swamp People and I can't stand that show. But anyway, I always thought that because I pulled up alligators on a jug line before and his head just came straight up and then he jerked and took off. But all of the alligators gave us a fight. None of them just came to the surface and let us shoot them. And keep in mind too, when Frank says he's gonna let me shoot it, Frank thinks he's playing Call of Duty with his 22 because he has a what would you call it? The proper name for it?
So I have a 1022 with an Archangel kit on it,
Mhm.
and what that did was allow me to put picante rails. I mean, that might be salsa. Look, I ain't good with terminology like that, but
Talking in general.
yeah, that too. But
So anyway, he looks like he's playing Call of Duty out there with a 22. Even when we go nutria hunting, he's sitting there with a looks like an M4 22.
So I loaded it because I looked at video and I was like, here, the magazine's in it. Just pull it back. And I handed the gun to him. And so I pulled up the line. Alligator came up. It spun a little bit, but it wasn't like terribly like violent. He just kind of like spun, rolled. We had to get him to calm down a little bit to where we could actually dispatch him. And once we dispatched him, we taped his mouth, pulled him in the boat, and we went on to the next line. Well, the next line was up. But
Yeah.
the line after that is when we had the 9-foot alligator on it. And Let's put it this way: that alligator actually cost me even more money than the other two.
Well, Frank, if you wouldn't have a 22 rifle again that looks like GI Joe going to Afghanistan, then the situation wouldn't. Let me go ahead and tell the story since I'm the one that almost died. And with this alligator.
But did you die?
So Frank pulls this alligator up. As soon as the head breaks the surface of the water, we knew this sucker was big. It was a lot bigger than the other one because the other one was, like I said, over 6 foot with a narrow head. But this sucker, big old head, big old wide head. So he pulls it up. It's thrashing all over the place. I'm trying to get the gun. I'm jumping up on the deck while he's fighting this alligator. We both on the bow of the boat on the deck, and he gets the alligator up, and I'm trying to maneuver to where I can get him. I almost fall out the boat on the other side while this alligator's thrashing around. My life flashed before my eyes.
I will say, when that alligator took off, if somebody would have been in the back of the boat, I would have cursed them out for kicking the boat in gear. That's how fast he took off.
That's what made me lose my balance.
Well, I mean, we'll say that, but
so yeah, so I get around finally. I get the shot off at the alligator. He's done. He's dispatched. But since he's such a large alligator, I wasn't sure about that shot placement. And before I put this dinosaur in the boat, I wanted to make sure he was good and cached and wasn't going to wake up in an angry mood on the way back. So I go to squeeze off another round because of, again, Frank's semi-automatic assault weapon, and click. And I'm like, what's the deal here, Frank? This fancy gun just clicks. And that's when I realized at some point of us fighting this alligator and me almost falling to my death in the water, a magazine ejected from the gun, and it is now at the bottom of the Salvador WMA. And so that cost Frank a little extra money. So we had to reload. No, I used your
my pistol,
the 6-shooter, to do it to just to make sure.
So a little bit about the regulations. Every hunter when hunting alligators are actually allowed to carry 2 22s on them to dispatch them. So of course I'm like, well, my first thought was, I'm going to wear my pistol while we do it just in case I need it in a hurry. Well, that didn't happen because I forgot about it, because once I saw the first alligator, I was
a little excited,
wide open, running at a brick wall to go catch it. So,
but if you would have put it on there, it would have been a lot better, Frank.
Yeah,
just saying.
And then we went to clean them. Well, I had to work nights, and I want to thank Vinny for what he did the last 2-3 days.
All the work,
pretty much.
All the work, Frank. Yeah. Well, we're getting ahead of ourselves. We're getting ahead of ourselves. So we taped that alligator's mouth up, put him back in the boat, and we checked the rest of the lines, and that was it. That was the only 2 that day. We could only have 2 lines per tag out, so we had to pull all the other lines, and we had 2. Actually, I forgot to say, one of the lines that we went to check that we ended up it was the same area that we ended up getting the last alligator. We actually had a popped line.
Yeah.
So we did catch all 3 of ours in the first 24 hours, but it must have been a gigantuan because he actually popped our line. And so we reset it right there because we figured, that was multiple alligators in that area. And then and of course the following day we went out, and that's where he was. The line that had popped, it was in that same spot that we got the 3rd alligator and brought him back. And then now we'll circle back to Vinny doing all of the skinning. So, well, let me give Frank some credit now. Did you get any sleep that day?
No, not at all.
So Frank, let's see, we woke up. You didn't work the day before.
No.
Okay, so you got sleep that night. We woke up early, went out there.
Wait, so let's start with the sleep lack deprivation. It's all Emily and Lakin's fault with the sleep deprivation.
From Marsh
Chicks, because they had recorded a podcast with me the night before, and I was like, hey, Vinny with Pelican Bone Outdoors lives right next door. He'd like to meet y'all, blah, blah, blah. We'll go over there and have a glass of whiskey with him. Well, a glass of whiskey turned into a cigar smoking session. That turned into what? Midnight we went to bed?
I think it was about then.
So midnight we go to bed, wake up for 6. So we've been up since 6 a.m. I have to go to work that night. I literally left for maybe an hour to go take a bath.
Yeah, we came back, we started skinning. I hung the 6 we'll just call him 7 foot. We hung the 7 foot alligator up and started skinning him like I guess like you would a deer. And I laid the other one out, the big one, I laid on the table, and I started cleaning him. Frank got halfway through the little one. He's like, man, I gotta go. I'm like, go ahead, Frank. Go ahead. I thought he was going to take a nap. No, he went took a shower and then
Well, I mean, I smelled like a chicken hit me in the face and stayed there for about a week.
that is a weird smell. It's like fish chicken mix is the way it smells, and it smells
Yeah.
still on my hand after washing it 5 times and taking a shower. But then the next day we get that other alligator, and on the way back, Frank, we get to the launch, and Frank's like, "Yeah, man, I'm head to your house. I'll help you unload them." I'm like, "Help me unload them." I'm in my mind, I'm picturing this is going to be easy. I'm going to take one half the alligator. He's going to take the other half. No, no, Frank can't. Yeah, I'll help you unload. Slap him on the table, and then Frank's like, "All right, man, I'll see you later. I gotta go get."
Yeah, because I had less than 6 hours and 24 hours at this point.
But this has happened more than once. I don't.
No, I have helped you clean every other animal we've killed. Because Lucas,
Yeah, you're right.
Lucas and Spence are the ones.
There was one time you had to go, but your animal stayed in the ice chest and you
Yeah.
cleaned it later or the next day. Yeah, the last time. As a matter of fact, the alligator that I told y'all that we found, that we seen. Well, the reason I put the lines in that area, that big one, I think that was the same hunt. I had my buddy Spence and Lucas with me. We ended up killing our limit of nutria. Again, it's stupid that nutria have a limit, but that's a different podcast. But anyway, we ended up killing the 5 nutria, and right there at the end, when we had, I think we were too shy of our limit. They started to tell me, Lucas is like, "Yeah, we're going camping, so I got to leave as soon as whatever. As soon as we get back." I'm like, "Okay." Spencer's like, "Yeah, I got to get home to my family." Blah blah. I'm like, "Okay." So he ended up taking 2. He ended up taking 2 because that was his first time skinning it. So he was willing to do it, but he had to take it home, and he was wasn't sure about how it goes. So he said, So yeah, I ended up skinning.
You actually called
13
me that
nutria.
day.
Oh yeah, I tried to get you to come help me.
Yeah,
huh?
you tried to get me to come help you, and I was actually deer hunting in Mississippi for the.
Yeah, don't worry about it. I'll take care of it.
But you still have all the nutria meat from last year. Like
Well, you got all the beaver meat from the trapping class thing that we went to, so I'll trade you.
touche. You have the beaver hide allegedly. I still have some. I don't look. We have so many hides in the freezer right now.
I do. That whole
Like-
bottom of that freezer is full, and then the one in the back, the deep freezer, I think it's all beaver pelts in there. But speaking of pelts, that's what we're planning on doing with these alligators. We already cleaned them up. We got all the meat packaged and put away, and it is a lot of meat. Can't wait to start cooking that up. Try and get the wife to stop going to the grocery store to buy meat because we got a wild game out the wazoo, and it's hunting season again. So I'm gonna have to start cooking it so I have more room in the freezer. But
We just need to get everybody that's like a content creator in South Louisiana and just have a wild game.
we do. We need
cook-off.
to get a bunch of people together and just have this, wild game cook off. I mean, that's what we need to do. I've been wanting to film a video. Frank, don't take my idea, but I wanted to go out and we'll collaborate on it. But I wanted to go out for like a day, either 24 hours or a 48-hour trip to catch as many different species as we can in Louisiana, like Louisiana species. I thought about doing it as a fishing video, like fish, crabs, you get trout, redfish, bass, perch, whatever. But if we could maybe do like a, I don't know, blast and cast, or maybe a hunt one day, a hunt and trap one day, and then everything fishing the next, and see how many different ones we can come up with. Because I mean, there's a lot of resources here in Louisiana.
Yeah, I mean, and like what's crazy though is like we're talking about these alligators, and just to give y'all an idea, we have a 65 quart Yeti ice chest completely full of alligator meat. And then we have a 45 quart ice chest that is completely full of alligator meat.
Both to the top, and that's just the meat.
So,
Yep. And
and
we
it-
saved. So I saved all 3 hides. We got them in a cooler on ice right now, and all 3 heads. We're gonna take the heads. I'm gonna boil them, do like a Euro mount with the 3 alligator skulls, and then I just talked to my buddy Derek, who actually was on 2 podcasts ago, and we talked about taxidermy. Got with him. He told me the stuff to use, and we're gonna tan the alligator hides, and we're not gonna they're not gonna be tanned like a soft tan. We're not gonna make it like a garment or anything like that. These are gonna be really stiff. They're gonna be stiff like a board, because I'm basically just gonna be hanging them up. One because of price, and one because of difficulty. It's a lot more work. and a lot more money to make it supple. I think that's the word. Not
Supple.
subtle, supple. Yeah.
Yeah.
To make it all flimsy. I would rather it like that, but this is our first go around. I just need a big one for the wall. He's going to take a big one. And then the small one, so the way the tan works is it's soft until it dries out after you tan it. So I can roll it up, put it in the freezer for as long as I want, and I'll be able to take it out, cut a piece off of it, shape it to make something out of it. And then as it dries, it's going to harden in that shape. So that might work out for me too. I'll be able to do some stuff like that.
All right. So backyard bullies. I would love, and Vinny would love to show you a video on the hunting, but public land lottery draws. The first thing that's on the extra rules that you get. So there's a book, if Vinny wants to hold it up or whatever, that is the pamphlet for. He looks like a Vanna White, doesn't he? But that's the
Still a lot prettier.
Don't worry, I'm the pretty face behind B-side now, so we're good. By the way, Randy, that was a jab at you.
Sorry, I'm playing my sound effects again.
So we on public land, you can't film your hunts unless you get special permission. And I was like, look, it's the first year doing it, and we really didn't know what we were doing. And so it was kind of like, we're just going to go ahead and not film not even worry about the filming, because there was so much more going on. I plan on doing a cook to make a video out of it. I've put out a short of the videos. But
so I actually had an opportunity last year, I think it was last year, the year before, to go with somebody who has so Salvador's kind of weird. It has, I believe what happened is when they sold the land to Wildlife and Fisheries to make it public land, they didn't give up all of the trapping rights. So there's sections I think that's how this works. So there's sections where people will have the alligator tags as if it was their own property. They get that many tags, as well as they get the rights to and trap the nutria and able to sell the tails for $6 or whatever. So a guy my dad knew, we linked up with him, and I was going to go, ended up not being able to go that year, but filling out the paperwork, it said you had to get permission to film. And then I asked Wildlife and Fisheries, because they said with special permission. So I asked the guy, and he's like, I'll give you the contact, but he's going to tell you no, just because if they had their choice, no one would film alligator hunting, is how he put it. And honestly, I think it has something to do with swamp people, because that was kind of mentioned. And in the thing that says no filming, specifically says for reality shows and stuff. So I don't know if those guys made them mad, or if they're just worried that people are gonna show it in a bad light and it's gonna cause issues, because obviously, all hunting and well, even fishing now, but all hunting and trapping, everything, they got all the people that are all upset just for hunting anything or killing a cow for steaks or anything. But which brings me to what we're gonna get into this later. Frank and I both put out shorts on our channel, little TikToks on different platforms, and we got some hate comments that we're gonna be sharing with you guys in a little bit.
But yeah, so a little bit, like, just for people that don't know, because going back on the comments, I had some that people were like, "Oh, you can kill alligators," and I was like, "Yeah," I was like, "It's highly regulated." They have what they call a site tag, which I don't know what it stands for.
Yeah, I thought it was when I heard site tag before I read it on a piece of paper. I thought it was site as in
SITE.
on site. Yeah, like the site where you're getting it. And it wasn't until today that I was reading something that is spelled CI something something something.
It's CITES, and it actually stands for something. I just don't know what it stands for. But so alligators, bobcats, and river otters have to have the site tags, and the reason is it's to protect the other endangered species that are similar to them, because they have some cats that look like bobcats. They have sea otters, which you can't kill, and alligators, I guess, are the crocodiles, or that the fact that I think alligators are still listed as threatened.
They're still listed I think federally as threatened, yeah. And my understanding is it's once they're on that list, it's hard to get them off, even if the population is recovered.
Yeah, because they have a little bit about this, and this is a tangent. And everybody that listens to my podcast knows I know more than I probably should about anything. But this is a kind of a tangent. But with the ESA, which is the Endangered Species Act, it's easy to get an animal listed, and they put a goal. So let's say they put 1 million alligators in the wild in Louisiana. That is the recovery goal. Well, when Louisiana hits that goal, Louisiana can put out being like, hey, we want it delisted. Well, what'll happen is they go to delist it and somebody sues. So a lot of times they'll just say, well, we're not going to delist it because we don't want the lawsuit. Similar with wolves in the lower 48, you know. So
yeah, so like the Louisiana alligator season or the story is a success story. The alligators was down to less than 100,000 in Louisiana, statewide. And then, of course, overhunting in the 1800s up until I think the 60s.
60s or 70s. But you want to talk about that. I can remember as a kid, and I tell everybody this, when you would see an alligator in the wild, I can remember fishing with my dad back in Bayou Gosh. It was like, oh my God, look, it's an alligator.
Right, it was rare.
And now it's like, oh look, it's an alligator.
It's another daggum alligator. These things are everywhere. Well, if you watch any of my videos, most of the time I have at least B-roll of an alligator in there, and that's not just stock B-roll. That's every time I go out, they got alligators.
Yeah, and what's bad though is that the tourism industry around alligators really need to be shut down, or at least that they shouldn't be able to do any handling of them, because that's where they start getting dangerous. A wild alligator, like especially when I was a kid, them alligators, you would see them. You could be in a pirogue and would it be in 100 yards of an alligator because they were getting away from you. Now they're so populated, nobody messes with them, and people feed them that they actually become dangerous and think of people as food.
Oh, I can tell you everywhere there's swamp tours without knowing where the swamp tours are, because if I pull into a canal and an alligator comes to my boat, they're being fed. Yeah. Every other alligator, as soon as I get anywhere near it, they submerge. But the back to the replenishing of the alligators, it was less than 100,000. And then once they implemented alligator hunting season 1962, I think I'm trying to read. I read it earlier, but I can't remember. But anyway, the program they used ended up getting the alligators as 2 million now in the wild, from less than 100,000 to 2 million in the wild, and another million in farms. That's separate from the 2 million that's in Louisiana. So there's 3 million alligators in Louisiana, 2 million of them being in the wild.
So do you want me to talk a little bit about the egg harvest program?
Well, I was gonna, but if you want to steal my thunder,
I can do it.
No, go ahead.
I mean, I'm the guest. I should have the right to talk, right? But anyway,
no, you're the guest, so
I tell
you when to talk.
Look, I'm just saying, I can't talk on my own podcast now, so I have to talk on other people's podcasts.
Go ahead, Frank.
So Louisiana back in the 70s implemented a harvest of
Why are you checking your phone during my podcast, Frank?
I'm looking at your comments.
Am I boring you, Frank?
A little bit, but is this the right button?
Yeah, there you go.
So back in the 70s, I believe they implemented this program where you could go out, collect eggs, collect a certain percentage of eggs, and you raise them to where they're 4 foot long, and you have to put 10% of them eggs back into the wild. And they got that number because I think it was like 1% of wild alligators don't make it past 4 foot. They'll get eaten by other alligators before that.
Right. Once they reach a certain size, their success rate, their survivability rate goes significantly higher.
Yeah. Well, just recently, I think within like the last 6 months, they talked about reducing from 10% to 5% and dropping down from 4 foot to 3 foot.
Right.
So that they can release less at a smaller size to reduce the population explosion of alligators.
And one of the reasons that alligator eggs have such a low survivability is the same reason we were talking about quail, is the red ants. Red ants is not a native species to Louisiana, just like half a ton of thousands of millions of other species that are here that don't belong. and they get into the eggs as well as birds and different things. So the survivability of them collecting the eggs and incubating them and being able to hatch them in a farm situation, a controlled environment makes it more successful. And then they, like Frank said, they release them. They'll notch the tail and put a tag in the toe when they release it, so that when they're harvested, they know whether or not it was a farm raised or a wild alligator. And that, of course, is I guess just a data thing that
Yeah.
they can collect to
So what I found really impressive, because I really did want to kind of catch a farm raised alligator, because I wanted to, because I don't know if they allow you to keep the tag, but you know how like banded birds are the big thing
it
to
would be like
kill.
abandoned, right? Abandoned
I wanted
alligator.
abandoned alligator. Every single alligator we caught was a wild caught alligator or wild raised alligator, which
Right.
was I was
Which is a
very
great
impressed.
thing, actually,
Yeah,
because I mean that means they're reproducing and
yeah.
surviving in the wild, and outside of the farm raised
But
alligators.
you want to like the population explosion. Another thing during teal season, um, my uncle almost lost his dog to an alligator. He said if he wouldn't have grabbed it when he did to pull it in the boat,
Yeah.
he had a 7-foot alligator that was trailing it the whole way to the boat.
And that's one of the things I'm afraid of with whaling. It's gonna have to be cold for a while, or I'm gonna have to just dove hunt or something
Yeah.
with them. Like
That's kind of why I gave up on really training Winnie, because I was like, first of all, the person I'm going to duck hunt with is Vinny. I'm not going to bring my dog if he has his dog.
and we never shoot ducks anyway.
Yeah, we don't even see ducks with Vinny. So I was like, there's really no reason for me to train her up to do that. So then my plan was to train her to be a blood tracking dog for deer, and I realized the only thing she would hunt is a piece of cheese. And now she's just lazy and doesn't want to get outside. If she sees a puddle of water, she'll walk 100 miles around it.
Well, I feel more comfortable like when I go out and hunt in Hopedale, because of the brackish water. There's not nearly as many alligators, and we hunt in small ponds a lot of times too. So you'll be able to scout the pond and see if there's any around there, hopefully, and that'll make me feel a little bit better.
Yeah, you say that like when I hunted I think it was Maurepas, or Manchac. I don't know. Whatever WMA I hunted over there, they're like within a half a mile of each other, but I didn't see hardly any alligators.
But
that's
gonna be mostly fresh, but they might be some salinity because it's connected to the lake right there.
Well, with the pond we were hunting, like they had a row of Rosos that might have been 30, 40 yards wide, and Lake Pontchartrain was on the other side of it.
Yeah.
So
well, it's probably gonna be mostly fresh because it's more north.
it's west side of the lake.
Yeah, I don't know. Have to go test it.
None of us. Look, me and Vinny are not professionals by any means.
Not a professional anything.
We just kind of wing this, and people think we're experts on it.
I don't think we're in danger of being mistaken as that. Matter of fact, go ahead and fact check everything that Frank says in this podcast. And then if he says anything wrong, feel free to blast him on his social media. If I say anything wrong, just sweep it under a rug.
Go to all of the B-side outdoors and give all of the feedback you want. Please do. Yeah. Please do.
And unsubscribe.
And no, do not unsubscribe. Subscribe. Give all the feedback you want, because the one with the 3 crying faces right now is the one that has to deal with it.
The 3, oh yeah. This is what he's talking about. That's Frank's partner in crime now on his
podcast and social media.
All B-side, huh?
Yeah. She's taking over handling the social.
She's taking over B-side. Frank doesn't know he's getting a letter next week saying that he's released from the brand.
Yeah. I did a podcast which will be coming out tomorrow. What's the day?
Wednesday? Wait, I don't remember agreeing to any marketing on my podcast.
Oh, I'll always market mine. I'll shamelessly plug everything I do.
So this is so talking about actually look at this. This is a short that I put out a while back. Back down here by the Twin Canals when I did a video out here, and this alligator was doing this. So I came across this guy today. That's that growling.
That mating. I think it's something to do with mating.
So I found out that it's not just that. I thought it was a mating call, but it wasn't even. It's both, yeah. So if there's big alligators in there, they will do that to size up each other and say I'm bigger than you. You need to leave me alone, kind of thing. I'm gonna start growling at Frank so he'll go away. But this right here, this isn't the. I'm gonna get my words. English is tough. A story at first, and then I made it. Frank's was
30, almost 36,000.
So they blew up on YouTube. Didn't do. I only got like 100 on TikTok from it, which is kind of crazy. Algorithms don't make sense.
Yeah.
But so we're gonna start reading the comments that we got from it. Got a couple, some of the subscribers like John Holiday. I think he comments on just about all of my videos. Good guy. He just commented, he just wants a belly rub. Why did you tape his jaws? Well, somebody responded to that in Russian, and it was something like "no need, stop killing" or something like that. I translated it, and it's got the cursing face, the mad face, the weird angry face, the crying face, the oh no face, another fu face, and he's a little devil face. Like, this person was ticked off that we did the alligator.
So I think so. What's terrible is, like, people in other countries are seeing these videos and they're like, "Oh my god, this is terrible." But
no context.
They don't understand the American model of conservation, which takes into account the population and says this many animals have to be harvested from our ecosystem to keep a healthy ecosystem for all animals. Because, like, I want to say somebody was talking about, like, somewhere near Russia, the ducks. They said, like, back in the 70s, they had thousands and thousands of ducks. Now you go over there, and if you see a duck, it's amazing. So,
so I mean, it's a renewable resource, and the way Louisiana is doing it, certainly it's going to continue to be a renewable resource because we give them a better shot by taking the eggs and hatching them in farms, and then the farmers release them. That quota, which keeps the population not only sustained but growing. Well, it was growing to a point that they had to reduce it, so it's working so well that they actually have to start reducing it again. And a lot of people don't understand that, and some people don't care to understand it. You want to read one of yours?
So really, all the rest of mine were just more inquisitive than anything. Like, one of them, I just liked the comment because it was like dead. I can't even pronounce how they put boy. There's like a bunch of, it's a BO, a bunch of I's, Y, and a bunch of Y's. And then another one, somebody was like, that's a big crocodile or alligator, and I was just like, it's an alligator. Somebody else was like, that's pretty big. The Russian one I had was evil person, which I don't consider myself an evil person at all. I consider myself a conservationist, but who knows? I might be evil. And then, so I like these type of comments that I think they're an animal lover. I'm not sure, but judging by their name, but is like, is it dead? So I was like, yes, but alligator. I explained alligators are highly regulated. There's a certain number of tags issued a year. They speak. Wildlife fisheries knows what they're doing with alligators. They're not going to let alligators get put to where they cannot hunt them anymore, just because it is a thriving industry. And it says, oh, you can harvest alligators, and I was like, yep. Explained all the regulations, and I said, I do plan on keeping the hides, keeping the head for educational purposes.
I'm using mine for decoration.
Well, I mean, you'd still use it for education.
Maybe I'm the evil
one. But and then they were like, "Oh, you cook alligator," and I was like, "Yep, it's actually very good table fare." And I'm gonna be releasing a video on how to cook alligator.
There he goes, plugging his channel again.
Always.
I'm gonna start charging you. You want to be a sponsor of this? Sponsor of this podcast? I got one that says "selfish carnist." I had to look that up. I didn't even know. I know it sounds like carnivore, but I don't know. I had to look it up, and apparently the definition is something along the lines of: carnist is someone who has been conditioned to believe that harming and exploiting certain animals, I guess, is good. I didn't finish reading the definition. Yeah, there we go.
Now he's using that like a good. I'm just saying, he's on Urban Dictionary right now.
well, I'm sure that this. Don't judge me. You don't know my struggles. Oh well. But yeah, so there's that. And then one says I don't know if they're. I don't think English is this person's first language. Alligators on the verge of extinction. It's time to stop hunting on them. Yeah, well,
And that right there is just complete ignorance
right.
of what they're talking on. And because, you know, like I'm going to use for trapping example. I was like, man, I don't see how you can say a trapper has unlimited animals they can harvest a year. But you go to we went to a trapping class and they explained that all your fur bearers have a huge population regeneration every year. So if you harvest one, or let's say for every one raccoon, there's 6 more being born.
Yeah,
You
so I
know,
don't know. I mean, I don't know how it would relate to alligators. I'm sure it's obviously going to be different than a lot of the fur bearers we trap, but a habitat can only sustain so many animals. So once that habitat reaches its quota, if you will, of raccoons, for example, the rest of them aren't going to survive. There's either not going to be enough food, and the babies will starve and die off, or predators or whatever. So it's only going to hit that ceiling regardless. So every time you take one, that's given the one that would have died a chance to survive. So he's going to survive. So unless they're extremely over hunted or over trapped, which of course wildlife and fisheries is making sure that doesn't happen. That's why they do the data and the research and everything like that. You're going to maintain that population as long as we don't keep losing habitat. But of course we keep losing habitat for all kinds of things.
well, you say we're losing habitat and all of that, but the number of trappers have been in decline since the
That's
last fur
true.
boom. And honestly, Louisiana, the trapping regulations are extremely lenient. But I do believe that if you ever do want to get into trapping, take a trapping class, understand why, and understand how to defend your position, and don't just be like, I'm doing it.
Yeah, wildlife and fisheries puts on a free class. They put on a free 1-day class to just introduce you to it. And after you finish that, they offer a free 3-day class where you actually go someplace, you camp, or they have actually a bunk house that you could stay in, and they actually take you out. You actually trap with experienced trappers, and they have wildlife and fisheries biologists on hand. They actually did a necropsy for us. That was pretty interesting. They I guess dissected a coyote, a beaver,
and a coon, huh?
and a raccoon. It was a doctor from LSU that came and did that for us.
So Dr. Fabio that did it put on a excellent presentation. He was a tad bit difficult to understand, but then again, so was the president of Trappers Association. So, but he walked through everything. He talked. I mean, if you had any questions, he'll do it. I believe he's actually doing another demonstration at the another demonstration at the Trappers Convention on the weekend of the 4th, November 4th. So anybody in Louisiana that wants to do that.
Yep. Oh, and by the way, I wanted to ask anybody listening to this or watching this live or listening to it later on the podcast, if you or someone has private land that has alligator tags, reach out to me on Instagram, whatever. I would like to film an alligator hunting video, and I have no way to do it because all we have is public land to hunt on, and I'd like to get that video before Frank does, since he's been plugging on my all his stuff on my podcast.
I'm gonna pay for a guided trip next year just to meet you.
Probably would. But yeah, hit me up, instant message me on Instagram, Facebook, or whatnot. But in response to the alligators that are going extinct, one person says, laugh out loud, there's like 1.25 million in Florida and more than thousands by America. That might not even be his English, might not be his first language either. And then the next person put, yes, but they are native. Catch and eat iguanas. I guess they don't know that we're not in Florida. But I would love to catch and eat iguanas. If anybody knows a way I can go out there and do that, also hit me up.
Dude, I want to. And look, I've heard iguana fat is excellent, and I didn't realize there was that much fat on an alligator.
What's with you in this fat?
Dude, you have to render it
Okay,
down.
so you're talking about this. All right. Frank wants to save all his fat, and he keeps talking about rendering. I'm like, dude, what are you going to do with rendered fat? Like, what do you do with it? His dude's talking about putting it in his hair and stuff. And I smelled my hands after doing that. I don't think my wife would even come near me if I start putting that junk in my hair.
So I read a book about the area that
Wait. You read a book?
it was a very small book. It was about the size of that pamphlet.
How many pictures did it have in it, Frank?
It had like a whole section of pictures. So, uh, but so anyway, I read a book, and it was talking about the area that my great grandpa's family was, and they were trappers, alligator hunters their whole life, and they talked about the family, and they called them the nasty Windeckers because the boys all thought they were like God's gift to women, and they would slick back their hair with alligator oil.
So I was reading on that website where I got that information that I completely messed up earlier. And what they used to use the fat for was to grease wheels and stuff.
Oh well, hey, look, they also used to use bear grease for that too, but they said bear fat is some of the best oil that you can render out.
Well, I'll take your word for it, Frank, because I'm not putting it in my hair, and I don't think I'm cooking with it.
Well, you don't have enough hair to put anything in, so.
I got a mustache.
Yes, Brandy, I read your text that you sent me. It's kind of inappropriate to text me while I'm on somebody else's podcast.
Jeez. All right, Frank.
I'm done with my comments. I mean,
now you're done with your comments.
Yeah. I mean, do you want to read the rest of yours and we can comment on your comments?
Oh, I thought you meant, talking.
Oh,
I got one that just says report, so I don't know if they're talking about reporting my my YouTube channel or.
But everything we've done has been perfectly legal, because that's one thing I will say about with the YouTube is that. Oh, Brandy's talking about me reading that. Okay, I read this after the fact. But sorry, that's
squirrel. Off chasing squirrels. No, I'm all about. The reason there are laws is to protect the wildlife, obviously, just like the alligators. The reason you can only have tags on private land or whatever, so that they can regulate it. Same thing with limits on ducks, limits on everything. As a matter of fact, sometimes I think the limits aren't stringent enough, and I was actually glad to hear that they changed the speckled trout limit. Now it's got to be 13.5 inches long, and you can only keep 15. Honestly, I wish they'd put a slot on it. I think you should have 20 inches and up. You should have to be released.
I think they should check out our neighbors to the west and to the east. I know in Florida that they have. I think it's. I don't know. I'm going to screw it up. But
come on, Frank, you can't start something and not know the numbers.
So,
right?
I know. I mean, Brandy, you're more than welcome to comment, and we'll throw your.
Oh
comment
no, Frank.
I've heard her
Frank.
tell me this like 6 or 7 times, but I think it's 16.
That means Frank is not listening to you, Brandy.
No, I'm listening. I just forget numbers. I think it's 16 to 20.
We also got to look at the population in different areas too. Yeah. I mean, we have different. Well, we had different regulations from the east to the west of Louisiana because it's different habitat. The west side of the state could only have, I think, 15. Okay, so it's here. I'll show it on the thing. So Texas, it's 17 to 23 with a limit of 3.
Yeah. Now, what I've been told though, if you catch 3 or 4 trout, or the 3 trout at 23 inches, it's the same amount of meat as 12. The 12.
Oh, no doubt, that's a lot. And if you once you increase the size limit, like no one's going to be keeping fish. Like most people won't be able to keep any fish once they change it because they put a notice of intent, so it's not in the law yet. They still got to go through some things, do some hearings and stuff. But the first year, you're probably going to catch a whole bunch of 11 and 12 inch trout. But since they can't you can't keep them, English is tough. Until they're 13.5, then a lot of those are going to be getting thrown back. And then the next year, they're going to be a little bit bigger. You'll probably be able to keep them. What's important now, though, is since this next year there's going to be a lot of released fish, is we're going to have to, I'm going to start pushing it in my my social media, just like I did with the redfish tagging. Better ways to care for the fish, because the point of releasing them is that they survive. So I know a lot of people like to grab the speckled trout with towels. That's terrible because it messes with their slime coat, which is their protection between infections and stuff. You want to grab them with a wet hand, which is going to suck in the wintertime.
So, and honestly, anybody that trout fishes, like rainbow trout or anything, like they tell you once the temperature gets so hot, don't even fish for them, because that'll kill the trout right there. Just coming out of that, 80-degree water into 100 and, like down here, 100-degree heat, that sudden influx of change will get,
Ain't nobody rubbing rainbow trout.
I'm worried about rainbow. They're delicious. Look, fly fishing is one of the things that I'm not good at it at all, and don't think I'll ever say I am. But I love fly fishing just because it's an art.
You know, the funny thing is, a speckled trout's not even a trout.
No, it's
It's not
actually a
even real.
drum.
Yeah, it's closer to a redfish than it is any kind of trout. And that just goes to show you.
But that's why we also call everything down here a perch, and we don't even have a technical perch.
Yeah, but trout, that speckled sea trout is like the common name everywhere.
Spotted sea trout.
Whatever. Same thing. Freckles.
But you're talking about like the ignorance of people on comments. I actually posted a thing yesterday or this morning or whenever I posted it, and it was talking about the different ingredients between a vegan patty and a vegan patty and a deer patty. The ingredients in a deer patty is deer. There's nothing else in it, you know. The ingredients in a vegan patty is about 1,000 different things, and I had somebody jump on there and was like, "You're passive aggressive bullying." First of all, there is no way to passive aggressive bully. Like, I was just pointing out facts. I mean, I don't know what passive aggressive bullying is even mean. Like,
Come on, Frank. Know your definitions.
or to me, I might be wrong, but but she was like, so like I explained my position and I was like, look, if you're that ignorant of what I'm talking about and you think I'm bullying people, it's not. It's educational for me. But then so there's some people on this live that definitely have read that post because they're making comments about it.
Frank's over here trying to start trouble is what's happening.
But like, so once I was basically like, hey, I'm gonna make my peaceful statement, and then I'm not gonna argue with ignorance. Because if you're gonna just tell me I'm wrong no matter what I say, well, yeah, probably. But I'm just like, whatever, I'm not gonna do it. Well, I had a couple of people that were like have jumped in on the comments and was like, yada yada yada, this is why you're wrong, like going at her. And I thought it was hilarious. And and then Brandy commented something. The girl was like, "You're not even invited to the barbecue." And Brandy was like, "I brought the grill to this party."
Back to that comment that it said, "Why did we tape the jaws?" So reptiles, I know snakes. So this is my first time dealing with a dead alligator, but I knew it was a reptile. Snake, you cut a snake's head off, the head will still bite you, and the body doesn't stop. So we found out it's the exact same way with an alligator. We before we pulled them in a boat, we dispatched it, and we pulled the head up to the boat, and we put electrical tape around the mouth because I didn't know how much they would move after, and it's just muscles and nerves firing the whole time. And what's crazy is, on the ride back, you got a leg moving, you got eyes moving and everything. The animal's deceased. He's not living anymore, but the muscles and stuff are still firing, which is a very eerie feeling when you got this huge dinosaur in your boat. And then when we got it back to the house and I threw him on the table to start cleaning it, it was lifeless, not moving at all. As soon as the blade touches the meat, no matter where it was, every time I touched the meat, the leg would contract or the tail would swipe. Like the last one we got, when Frank went home and took a nap, I was cleaning that last alligator. Every time I tried to skin the tail, his tail would swipe. I thought I was gonna get knocked out by this dead alligator. So that was a pretty freaky little experiment. There we go, dude. English is tough. There's Frank checking his phone again.
Well, I have other issues.
That's it, Frank.
But
nope.
So
you're not welcome to.
What was crazy though is like the 7-foot alligator when I went to put the sight tag in him. So the way you put the sight tag in the alligator is on the back of an alligator. Do you have a picture of an alligator so we can kind of, of his tail good or anything?
Nope.
No. Okay. So we don't have one. But anyway, if you notice, there's ridges down the bottom of the back of the tail. What you do.
The tag right there at the end.
So, you basically make a small incision about a blade width and just shove the tag in, and it snaps. And once it snaps, it's stuck. Well, when I went to like that 9-foot alligator, when I went to like just stick the knife in. He decided, or the reflexes moved, and it yanked the tail completely out of my hand. Like there was nothing I could have did to stop that reflex. So imagine an alligator with his mouth, mouth opens and you step wrong and it comes down on you. Now you have a lifeless animal that can't open its mouth that's bearing down on whatever. And
So I watched Jared's video from outside the levee. I was trying to get Jared on this podcast, but I asked him way too late and he didn't have a chance to schedule it. But I'll have him on a later podcast. But I was watching his video. He was able to go on some private land and film, and they didn't tape the mouths. So I think I'm still going to tape them. I think I'm still going to tape the mouths.
Because look, I'm the guy that's going to get bit by a dead alligator and like lose my leg.
So alligators aren't like sharks. Sharks have really sharp teeth. They're made for cutting. Alligators are not. Alligators' teeth really aren't that sharp. They're made for crushing and gripping. They will grab on you. I forget how many pounds of force. It's thousands of pounds of force in an alligator's jaws. He grabs you, and it's a vice. It's not letting go. And if he can't crunch it and swallow you whole, he'll grab your arm and go into that death roll till he rips parts off that are swallowable.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm not playing with an alligator.
No, they don't freak me out. I'm not scared of them, but when I almost fell in the water with that big one that you was tussling with, that got my blood pumping a little bit. Got that adrenaline flowing.
You mean when you threw my mag? I think you ejected the magazine through it anyway, just so you could use your 22.
Well, mine looks more like a 22 that you would use for alligator hunting and not going to war.
Wow. It did the job.
It did. It did.
But yeah, so you actually got to pull in the 8-foot alligator yesterday.
Yeah, that was heavy.
Yeah.
They were both heavy. That 9-foot alligator was really heavy. He had to have been 200 pounds, 200 plus.
Yeah, it was definitely. But I believe it or not, that was another thing. Like two of the things I noticed is, as heavy as that gator was, he really wasn't that hard to get into the boat.
No, they were able to pull him up pretty easy. Two of us were.
The way they're built is just we pulled them up. They went right. They basically you get the head and you built about half the body and you roll the tail in. And then the other thing, and people are gonna say I'm an idiot for this. I already know, but I'm gonna say it anyway because look, there's no shame in my game. When we were cleaning it, you don't think about it, but I'm like, man, you sit there, and I'm used to cleaning large animals like whitetails. Even 2-3 hours after they're dead, and when it's 50 degrees outside, it's still warm in their body. If you get them early enough, they're steaming. That alligator was like ice cold. Cold-blooded.
Cold-blooded animal.
Like it didn't dawn on me until I actually put my hands on it.
Cold-blooded animal, Frank.
Yeah, I know. So
Frank's special.
we know that if anybody that hung out with me, talks to me on a regular basis, knows that not everything in my brain clicks all the time. So
yeah, so we're gonna start cooking these things up soon. I'm gonna have some cooking videos on my channel. He's gonna have cooking videos on his channel. That's B-Side Outdoors. There you go, Frank. I gave you a shout out.
Yep.
If y'all have any alligator recipes, hit me up in Instant Messenger.
DM.
Did I just say Instant Messenger? Do you remember Instant? Are you old enough to remember Instant Messenger?
I am old enough to remember.
All right, jeez.
I guarantee you, there's people that are watching this live that probably do not know what an Instant Messenger is.
That was when you get on the internet, sound like
AOL. AOL, dude. I remember. So speaking of that, I remember when we first got high-speed internet. It was the greatest thing in the world, and it wasn't even high speed. It was like,
I wish I had high-speed internet.
It was non-dial-up. It was digital internet.
Non-dial-up internet. But yeah, so be on the lookout for that. We're gonna have some cooking videos. I haven't eaten alligator in so long. I really forgot what it tastes like. I know it looks and feels kind of like a mix between redfish and chicken. So I imagine it's gonna taste similar to a chicken fish.
Everything tastes like chicken except for the chicken. I mean, we had some chicken you could have cooked up if you really wanted chicken.
No, I'm gonna take the alligator. Well, we got some marsh chickens, but. Anyway, guys, we're coming up on the hour. Thank you guys so much for stopping by on the live. Thank you all who are listening to it wherever you get your podcasts. And We'll be doing these lives every Tuesday or Wednesday, depending on my work schedule. Actually, next week we'll be doing it on Thursday. We're gonna have Tokyo Bourgeois, the king of Barataria, most interesting man in the world. We'll have him on Thursday because that's actually I work Tuesday and Wednesday of next week. But yeah, so that's why. But again, thank you guys so much for stopping by. I really do appreciate it. Make sure you check us out on the next one.